So, pregnancy or papers. In part one of my series, Surviving Marriage to a Nigerian Pastor, I asked you guys to share in the comment section what you feel or believe it was that led me to walk down the aisle as quickly as I did, and what enabled this Christian marriage to happen so quickly. Well, interesting, because the comment section was filled with the accurate answer. And we're going to have that discussion today, or I'm going to talk about it today in the final of this series. So this is part 5 and this is final. Not to say that there's not more gist coming later, because this has now birthed so many things that I can speak about on my platform. So I want to just bring you back a bit. I had my first son at 21. And up until that point, I had him at university just when I was finishing my 3rd year, or I got pregnant at that time. Up until that point, as a young woman, I was thriving. Living at my mum's at the time, I was doing well in my university course. I also had a weekend job as a beauty consultant in Selfridges. I had my car. I had a boyfriend. My boyfriend was my son's dad. And you know, he actually used to live out of London, so he used to come to London quite often. Oh, sorry, I was in Kingston at the time, Kingston University. That happened, and when I had my son at 21 and he completely abandoned us, I got into the church. Like, it became the thing that held me together. And so I was in a sect, like church, I mentioned it as well, that was very controlling. And I stayed there for 4 good years before I went to Christ Embassy and met my ex-husband. Now, I recall our first date, okay? I remember we went to Harvester. I love Harvester. My dad used to take us there when we were kids. And yeah, we went to the one in Watford. But I feel that date was what kind of quickened things as well, because it was like, okay, right, we're a match, let's go. Now, in my 38-year-old experience, obviously that's not going to cut it when it comes to me deciding on if I'm going to marry somebody or not. I'm a lot older, I'm a lot maturer. I've seen so many examples of catastrophes, including my own, that obviously shows me to be a bit wiser in choices, and just making a decision on who I'm going to spend my life with. So him and I obviously started pretty much courting very soon after that. Now, I showed with you the very important matter of me having my son at 21, because honestly, from the time I conceived my first son to the time I met this pastor 4 years later, I hadn't touched anyone. Nobody had come to me. Let's say I was celibate and I didn't have any type of intimacy with any man. I didn't talk to a man, nothing. I was completely sewn in on obviously the church and obviously my child as a single mother. And so this was interesting because it's my first relationship since having my son, or since I, my last boyfriend who I met when I was at university that I had a son with. So we dated, we courted, and we came home. And you know what happens when we go home? You know, it's now leaving from going for a restaurant outdoors or in public spaces together to being just privatized with you two. And I remember the intimacy level went from 0 to 100 real quick. Fill in the gaps. Yes, the deed was done. And we're Christians. And you're a man of God. And I was in the choir. Yeah, sure I was. I kind of wanted to do something new, but it's not like I can sing like Kelly Rowland. But I was in the choir. And so imagine the pastor and the choir member hooking up. Oh, interesting. Ain't that Christian church tea, lot? But that happened. And I remember our first time when we did the deed. And him saying to me, you are already my wife, so we can do this. Because I was like, I'm very reluctant to do this. This is not right. This is wrong. We should not be going here because of the church, because of our faith, because of our religion. We should not be taking it to the bedroom. But here we were, and it happened. I don't know if it was immediately, because it happened several times, of course, before we shared with our pastor. We was getting married, before I shared him with my family to introduce him, etc. But within that time, I remember us going to church together often. I will pick him up, we'll go to church. I would stay at his, and then from there, the next day we'll go to church. I recall one time I was so fatigued, like incredibly, like to the point where I couldn't stand up. I was so weak and felt so sick. I then wanted ginger biscuits. Like, I don't know why, but I wanted to eat ginger biscuits. And I also wanted a full English quite often, especially ginger biscuits. So I'll often be like to him, can you please go and get me some ginger biscuits? I want to eat ginger biscuits. So I had my ginger biscuits, and sometimes I had my full English. Interesting enough as well, if my sister's watching, she's gonna burst up laughing, because obviously, when I was pregnant with Emmanuel, I was at my mum's house at the time, young girl, and one morning I woke up and she saw me in the kitchen making a fry up, and she was like, what the fuck? What's my sister doing? She was like, why is she making a fry up? Why? And then this is when she was like, Chanel, are you okay? Why are you making a fry up? To the point where she kept on asking me every morning, and I was like, listen, stay out of my business, okay? I will get in my car, I will drive to Harrow, and there was this one cafe, because she used to live in Harrow, that we used to go to, and I would go and secretly have my full English there so that my sister won't be nosy. And so in this current time where I'm with my, soon to be husband at this point, and I'm having my full English and my ginger biscuits, and feeling so fatigued and feeling so sick. And he says to me, Mummy, you are pregnant. Hey, my God. Erratic. Ha! The internet. I can't believe I'm sharing this on the internet, you guys. China, wow. Nana Hima, really, yes. Nana Hima has had a pass, please. Thank you. I am okay, and I'm thankful for everything. Piao, 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 piao. But yes, he said, Mommy, you are pregnant. And at this point, I didn't even know yet, because all I know is I want ginger biscuits and full English, and I'm feeling fatigued and feeling nauseous. And so I'm seeing that obviously my period's late now. He might actually be right. I think I've got to go and do this test. So I go and do a test, and I'm immediately pregnant. I get pregnant. This is before the wedding announcement. This is obviously before the wedding. And finding out that I was pregnant, being a Christian girl, being he's a leader in the church, wow, you lot are in trouble. So immediately it was like, right, we need to get married today. I think the only person that I told at that point was my sister. And she went from, I don't understand why you're rushing to marry, to, okay, I'm going to stick beside you. Because at this point, obviously, I did share in a previous video, she was warning me against it, other people, but what everyone didn't realize is I was with child. I was pregnant. Okay? I got pregnant for him. So here we are, big old Christ Embassy leader. He's gotten the choir girl pregnant. Okay, we were in a relationship and we were talking marriage, but there was so much more for us to do. And that kind of brings me and circles me back to this. I know a lot of people have criticized my moves, not so harshly, because first of all, I was quite young. I was only like 24, 25. This is how many years ago, you guys? I won't do that now. Obviously not. And then second of all, a lot of people was like, oh, but you did this, you saw all these red flags. I saw it all, but I also didn't want to be a single mother again, you guys, from my experience before. So if this man is getting me pregnant, best believe we have to marry now. Now, do you guys get it? I'm not exempting myself from ignoring the other red flags. Those were sirens and alarms, obviously. However, I had to cover up this pregnancy. And it had my mind boggled because I was constantly like, oh my God, but then if we get married in January and then I'm showing by February, then people are going to know that I was pregnant in November. You know, I'm like killing myself almost with what if, and what if, and all of the possibilities, because I was covering my pregnancy. So, pregnancy or papers, that's your answer, you guys. But what happened to that pregnancy? Let's talk about it, because obviously I didn't have the child. I got married on a Saturday morning. It was a Saturday after my birthday. So I had just turned 25, I believe. It was a Saturday after my birthday. And I remember that day, my nausea wasn't as much as before, weirdly. It wasn't as much as before. And I got through the day. It was a very stressful day. We stayed somewhere for that night. And then on the Sunday, I can't remember if we went to church or not. I think we just went back to our place, cleaned the flat because it was a mess. And then on the Monday, I saw a bleed. And I was like, what's going on? I'm supposed to be pregnant. Why am I bleeding? I went to an appointment with, took an appointment with the GP, and they referred me to go for a scan. And so that week we went for the scan, and tragically they done the belly scan thing. They said, we can't find a heartbeat. We cannot find a heartbeat. And I was like, what does that mean? There's something within me. I'm sure I'm still carrying. They said, yes, we can see the fetus, but the heart is not beating. Unfortunately, you have miscarried. Yeah. So there was like, here are your options. You can wait for the baby, because eventually it will come out. Like you've seen a little bit of bleed, but in the next couple of days, it's going to eventually self-terminate from your body. Or we can do they hoover, it's like a way to vacuum your womb and take out the remains, if we want to call it that, of the fetus. I went home. I think I was in disbelief. And like I knew it was real and honest, because it was like my pregnancy symptoms were dying down. And this was another thing as well. I did take another pregnancy test, and the lines were blurred. Like it was like not pregnant, but faded. The other line was faded. And so obviously that's where I kind of got a bit scared, went to the doctors, and then they referred me to go to the hospital, and they done a scan to further show. So what happens is your pregnancy hormones obviously start to come down because you're no longer pregnant. And so I was in a bit of disbelief still. And I also was a bit curious. I was like, if I stay here this long, what is really going to happen? One evening, and I will never forget this, because I was wearing some leggings. Okay, they were black and white patterned leggings. I was wearing those leggings and I was on the sofa, and all of a sudden my stomach just had the most excruciating period-like cramp. I was having period-like cramps up until that point, but women who've been pregnant in their early stages, have you ever felt something that's called like stretching pains? It's called like the stretching ligaments or something, where your womb is contracting or stretching because it's making way for the baby. So I had been feeling that for a while, but this more or less felt more towards the side of period cramps as opposed to actual, stretching pains. And so the period cramp was so harsh, and then all of a sudden I felt gush just bud off into my lower region, and I screamed and screamed and screamed. And my husband at the time ran into the living room and he was like, "What is happening?" And I was screaming and crying, and it was just very, 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 it was a lot. Went to the hospital and they said, yes, well, we have seen the fetus has come out. We can allow you to continue. It's up to you. We can allow you to continue draining it out until it's completely out, or we can have a further, hoover and vacuum to bring the remains out. So I opted for that because I was like, I just want this over and done with. It's already traumatic having to lose a baby in this manner. And that's the first time I had miscarried. And so, yeah, they removed the remainder. I was put to sleep for that. It's like a mini operation. And I think for the rest of the time, I think I just bled or whatever. And that was it. I don't even get it. I don't get it. And you know me, I'm a very deeply spiritual person. I will always look at the spiritual meaning behind that, because it was as if to say this pregnancy was designed to distract me with this guy. And then as soon as I got locked in, wedding vows and everything complete, then, all right, there's no need for you to carry that baby anymore. Retract. When I tell you this was such a demonic attack, that whole thing was you want to take me to Mountain of Fire and start calling me a witch? Which kind of warlock did I actually get myself involved in? I think that's a question we need to ask now. Because how? Okay, I had been celibate from the conception of my son, literally the conception of him, okay, up until 4 or 5 years later, to meet this person, to get involved in them in that manner, to then have to get pregnant. So by force, I'm going down the aisle now. And then end up losing it literally days after my wedding. I can't even describe to you the mental strain that took on me, because I don't even know how I didn't even go mad in that period. But I do remember being very, very, very depressed. So depressed to the point where I did speak to, I had to get a therapist and everything at the time. It was just a lot, it was just a lot. Now, what would I do now? Because, Cardi B said something recently. Oh, it was very recently. I think it was yesterday. She was like, no man can ever trap me with a baby. Let the shame of the church come upon us if that's the case. But I shouldn't have married, perhaps. If this happened to me now, what would I do? Because marriage is so much different than just having a baby for someone. You shouldn't just marry somebody because you've got a baby with them. I don't think that's safe, actually, because you could be marrying anything and anyone. You guys know of this content creator, The Wizard Liz. I'm sure you do. There's a lot of talk about her at the moment. But she has just done a podcast with somebody, and she was saying that her mother, her whole story is another thing, but her mother ended up marrying her abusive father. For 25 years she stayed with him, and he also ultimately trapped her as well. She didn't want to marry the man, but having babies with him is the reason why she stayed. Having a baby or having children shouldn't be the reasons as to why you stay in an abusive relationship or marriage. And a lot of the time, a lot of us end up doing that. And I understand 2-parent households are just so much more secure in a way, isn't it? But that's secure if the person's not abusive or a freeloader or, somebody who puts so much abuse and strain on you to the point where it just stresses you out and makes you go crazy. It's just never worth it. For a woman's self-esteem, for a woman's wealth, for a woman's, yes, her wealth as well, for a woman's strength, don't stay or get involved with a man because you're pregnant with them or have a baby with them. That man has got to love you. That man has got to really sincerely want the best for you. And the way he's going to put the best in and put the work in for you is when he invests in you so that you are less strained, that you don't feel that you're alone, that you are feeling that you're looked after and you're being looked after. Not because you've gotten pregnant for me. That should never be a reason. But I didn't know any wiser them days. I've had a lot of criticism. Oh my God. And I criticize myself, honestly. Like, why and how could you? Chanel, you could have done so much better. Even my pastor warned me. My sister warned me. Certain people who knew me warned me. I had someone in the internet comment, and this I have to just... that's cap. Someone said, oh, but Chanel, we all warned you not to marry him. Don't lie, because you guys didn't even know I was dating anybody. So just to clarify that, you guys did not know I was dating him. I came out with I'm a married video and I was wearing a dead blonde wig. Do you guys remember? So no, darling, no, don't, no. But I get it. I was warned in my real life. That being said, the people who warned me in my real life, also, perhaps some of them didn't know I was pregnant. And then apart from that, I now know that the reason to stay with a man is not because I'm pregnant, okay? I would have done so much things differently if I didn't get pregnant. I would have taken my time, even with not knowing so much at that time, if I didn't get pregnant. But I was honestly scared for him and me for being religious people or for being church people and having a position in the church. I was scared for us, okay, if, I came out pregnant when we weren't married yet. So this brings me to the end of the series, and there's so much more to come. Please subscribe to both channels now, because I do collaborate the channels, although I have a whole different plan for Chanel Boateng main platform, and I'm excited about that. This space is going to be a women empowerment world, okay? We are getting ours, okay? We are coming in large. We are empowering ourselves. We are building, rebuilding, pivoting, nurturing, changing, reshaping, remolding, standing firm as women. That is my purpose. That's my calling as a Queen Mother as well, to lead my community of women as well. And this is why even Chanel Boateng platform itself remains as it is. I'm going to be doing some solid content for women empowerment, particularly back home. Okay, but here on Chanel's house, it's these candid videos that I'm going to keep on throwing at you, and we're going to talk about various cases, different things to do with pertaining to domestic abuse and transformation, support for women who are going through divorce, okay, because I've had a lot of questions. I want to do specific videos on that. Also seeing the transformation and glow ups from people that we are inspired by, Adele, etc. Like there's so many women that I can say, wow, clap for you, you did that, and now watch me rise. And we are all rising together. So please stay tuned. Follow my social media and other platforms. And of course, the conversation will still continue. Ashe, Piao.